the car is not going to last. Unfortunately, today in the Gambia, we are so dependent on Western types of, outside types of foods, to the extent that our indigenous dishes have disappeared. In fact, we intend to set up a competition, maybe a short festival on Gambian foods, and see who will come out first. I am sure that only old women would win that competition. Not a young person would win because they don't even know. So, because now we're so dependent on this imported junk food, we are paying a high price. So we should go back to our roots. Go back to our corn, our nyankatang, our findi. Sadly enough, 98% today of the findi that we consume is imported. We import it from where? Mali. When in those days, every village you go to in the Fonyis, or even everywhere in the provinces, you will see nothing less than 10 findi farms. Findi is the most effective crop to fight hunger. Findi and maize. Why? Because they are early crops. Unfortunately, 98% of the findi that is eaten in this country is imported. And what does that translate into? Findi has become so expensive that the average poor farmer cannot eat it, when we could have grown it easily here. So this year, we're going to work with, as I said, I'm the Super Minister of Agriculture. We're also going to be very aggressive in introducing food crops that enhance health and also are effective in eradicating hunger. And that will be, we will encourage, we will get large quantities of findi seeds that we will distribute free of charge to the farmers across the country. Because Gambia used to be a major producer of findi, not as a cash crop, but as a food crop. And this had helped a great deal in those days. Because there are months in the Gambia that we call the lean season, or they call it, in more blunt terms, we call it hungry season. And that is from, I think, June up to September. And every year, no matter what we do, this part of the year, this time of the year, that particular period in the year, there are people that will not have the 3 square meals a day in the Gambia, no matter what you do. Now, what do you do in order, what the farmers used to do in order to cushion this period is growing other crops like findi and maize and brucus, these Philippine pink granules. And so around August, people are harvesting findi or harvesting granules or harvesting maize. So that is the end of the hungry season. Unfortunately, even it's already North Bank, which is a major producer of corn. But we can produce corn in sufficient large quantities for export. But now we have some mills being built which will require a lot of corn, especially in the poultry and animal feed sectors. So we would encourage people to grow more corn. After all, also corn is not labor intensive. Findi also is not labor intensive in terms of cultivation. Corn, for findi, the only problem is in the processing. After harvesting is a nightmare, but processing it is worse. So if you want to have problems with a lazy wife, just give her a bag of unprocessed findi. Even now, you go to the market, they will not buy anything that is not ready for cooking. They always buy the one that is already processed, and that is also why the price is very high.
Excellency, as we speak, the European Union is beset with its own internal problems. David Cameron is opting for a referendum before they join the EU. Greece might be shoved out of the European Union because the economy is not working. The marriage between Angela Merkel and Monsieur Hollande is still being patched. But on the 4th of January, the Gambia government and the European Union sat on EU Article 8 dialogue, and they made a set of recommendations with timetables asking your government, among other things, for a commitment of your government to allow for the free operation of independent media in the Gambia, as well as other media-related matters. They also asked for the upholding of the moratorium on the death penalty and many other things, I'm sure, which you have seen and have been able to deal with. But we have seen that the people of the Gambia have been judicious enough to come to say that this is not about the president, this is about us. The European Union is actually attacking the sovereignty of the Gambia. Let us take to the streets, let us manifest our grievances against the European Union. I will not ask you to talk about what the European Union has said, given you the Gambia government, but the people of the Gambia, how did you view their response to the European Union and the shall I say, instructions that they have given? Because this is an instruction.
Well, I'll answer your question by asking you a question. Is you, Malik Jones, are you, Malik Jones' views contrary to the views of the Gambian people?
Not at all, sir.
Well, that answers your question. With regards to Britain or whatever country has whatever problem within the EU, I'm only concerned with my relation, what the EU wants the Gambia to do. Whatever else, anything else is their internal matters, which I'm not in a position to say anything about. What I have to say about is their policy towards not only the Gambia but towards Africa. That is where I have business in. But if your views are in line with the views of the majority of the Gambians, then that answers your question.
Is it not time, Mr. President, I'll still stick with this, but let me turn it around. Is it not time that Africans say, look, our continent is our problem. We, the Africans, will solve our problems. When the European Union have a problem, Africans don't have a say in their problems. So why will African leaders allow European Union or other countries in the West to try to deal with African problems?
Well, I think the answer to the question depends on individual leaders, what they represent and what they stand for. If I am here to enrich myself and the West to get all the natural resources of the Gambia to the detriment of the Gambian people so that my children can have free visa and permanent stay in their countries, and when I retire or when I leave office, I'm free to go there with my loot, then I would accept what they are saying. Unfortunately for them, I am born African, I will die African, and I'll be buried in Africa. And I stand for Africa, I live for Africa, and I will die for Africa. I am an African, I will live an African and die an African. So, you see, the question is, don't we have free press? We have. But what is the definition of freedom? If it is freedom where you can just, because you have a pen and a paper and you call yourself a journalist, you can accuse Yahya Jammeh or any other person for that matter wrongly, insult him and get away with it, that is not freedom. There are freedoms and responsibilities. Your freedom, you are free as long as your freedom does not encroach upon the freedom and rights of others. To say an independent press, do we have an independent press in the Gambia? Yes and no. Because When you look at the majority of the press in this country, or okay, let's say newspapers and journalists,